It's a wild world out there, but some worlds are even wilder. Hi, my name is Tyler Hapney, and you're listening to Dungeons and Dystopias. Thank you for listening.
Hello, and welcome back to yet another episode of Dungeons and Dystopias. I'm your game master and host, Tyler Hapney. I've run hundreds of sessions of Cyberpunk Red and Dungeons and Dragons combined, and this podcast is a way for me to reconcile my thoughts on both of those systems. So today we're going to be talking a bit more about Dungeons and Dragons. And today we're going to be going a little bit away from the class series I've been doing, as fascinating as that is. And I want to talk, I guess, kind of just about a bunch of stuff, to be honest with you. I don't know if I necessarily have a topic in mind for this one, but there's a lot going on with D&D, so, there's a lot to talk about. And for one, I didn't mention this on the last episode, but it does appear that there's a new book coming out. Two new books, actually, coming out around September. And that is going to be the Arcana Unleashed Deadfall. Looks like it's going to be an adventure. Well, the Arcana Unleashed looks like it's going to be basically like spells and stuff. It's not going to be anything crazy, but then Arcana Unleashed Deadfall here's like it's going to be an actual adventure. And Deadfall is only going to be $30. So probably not a full-length campaign, but probably a smaller sort of adventure that seems to be tied to the Red Wizards of Thay. It says here on this website that they're covering a new wizard war. And we're going obviously into Thay, which is a crazy place, and I'm very excited. But yeah, Arcana Unleashed. We don't know a ton necessarily about either of these books, but Arcana Unleashed it does seem to be a magic-themed rule book with new subclasses, spells, and yada, yada, yada. Very exciting stuff, if you ask me. We also have a unconfirmed, it's not unconfirmed, but we've got points, hints pointing towards potentially a return of the Dark Sun setting sometime next year, which should be exciting because I don't think Dark Sun has been touched in decades. So it's very interesting that they're going to be bringing that one back, especially considering, I've heard Dark Sun in the past has had some pretty crazy kind of, sort of grimdark elements to it. So I'd be excited to see how current Wizards of the Coast handles some of the harder edges of Dark Sun and how necessarily that is going to work out. We also have another book coming up, returning to Ravenloft in June. I'm going to be covering that. It is Ravenloft, The Horrors Within, talking all about Ravenloft. And of course, for a fact, I've spoken about Ravenloft on this very podcast. So, if you want to know more about Ravenloft before the book comes out, I'd give that a listen. It's only like 20 minutes. Coming back to Ravenloft is nice. It seems like it's also going to be coming along with another little thing I've mentioned before, Astarion's Book of Hungers. So that seems to be coming along with the Ravenloft book that we could expect. And that seems to also be coming with a sort of side of accessories like deck, reference cards, maps, DM screen, stuff like that. So, yeah, we've got some stuff coming up here in the Dungeons and Dragons world. And it's looking like we're still not expecting a campaign. Not like a full-length campaign. We still aren't getting that. It seems like we're getting more setting guides and I guess a tiny adventure with the Red Wizards of Thay, but I'm going to guess that's probably going to wind up being more of a setting guide considering the price point on it. It's probably not going to be what you're really, really looking for in terms of, having a full-length adventure quest kind of thing. But we got, there's some stuff coming up this year for D&D, and obviously next year with Dark Sun. Would be interesting to see how that comes out. I'm probably going to be covering Dark Sun at the very least when it comes out. The new Ravenloft book, I'm not going to lie, does kind of look like the Ravenloft book we already have. I mean, I obviously haven't looked inside of it, but it is, we've got 4 playable species: Dhampir, Hexblood, Lupin, and Reborn species. Reborn. Reborn, Dhampir, Hexblood, I think are all in the 5th edition book for Ravenloft, Ben Richten's guide. So, we're going to be able to play those guys again. I'm excited. I personally really love playing Reborn. I love undead characters, just in general. So, yeah, man. Sorry here. I misread. It seems the Asteria's Book of Hungers has already been released. Maybe I'll have to look into that. Asterian's Book of Hungers. Yeah, no, that was released this year, actually. That's humiliating. Can't get rid of that. That is, yeah, wow. I should probably have covered this. I probably still can. But for now, I think we're gonna have to hold off on that because I'm in the middle of recording. Hey, get Asterian's Book of Hungers. I might have forgotten that already came out. It is only $15. So, fun times. Oh man, what do I want to? We're kind of still reaching into this grab bag here of trying to find new stuff to see. I mean, you've got the official 5.5e name, officially 1 week ago, is now no longer D&D 2024, which I think is an excellent idea, not to date it to a specific time. And to instead just call it 5.5e, which is what I have already been doing for some time. And just, making that official is very, very nice. Wizards of the Coast finally making that decision, but, feels like it should have been made a while ago. But hey, 5.5e, that's what we're covering now. That is the 2024 rules update. But let's circle back to earlier part of our conversation here. We're going to talk a bit more about Deadfall here and the upcoming Arcana Unleashed, because it seems like what they are doing is essentially giving us new rules, new toys, and fun things to toy with, and then they're giving us a secondary adventure that kind of covers how a lot of those things can be used. Of course, I could just be talking out of my ass. I don't necessarily know. I haven't read Deadfall. I don't think anyone really has, except for the people who worked on it. So, one can assume it's going to be probably utilizing a lot of the new stuff that's in Arcana Unleashed. Probably, I'm going to guess there's going to be some new stuff in there that we probably haven't seen before. So they're going to want to show us how DMs can use it, I guess, effectively. So that's going to be interesting. Obviously, I can't really show you, but the cover art for this Deadfall is amazing. It's really good stuff. I'm really looking forward to the Red Wizards of Thay. I feel like I could do an entire episode on those guys, and Thay in general, which would be absolutely wonderful, because I love Thay. I don't really get an opportunity to use Thay too much. I've used them a little bit, but that was in relation to my Descent into Avernus campaign. I had the Ashmadai there, necessarily. I mean, they weren't there, but they were somewhat important to what I had going on. If for reference, if you don't know, the Ashmadai are essentially a bunch of red wizards from Thay who hang around Neverwinter and worship Asmodeus, the sort of king of the devils, I guess you would call him that, a big daddy. Uh, he's man, he's basically Satan. So they're a bunch of like crazy devil worshippers that are red wizards. So they're actually pretty powerful, and they hang around Neverwinter. They're called messengers of the raging fiend. So some pretty crazy stuff. They've also been in possession of quite a lot of stuff here. The Ruby Rod of Asmodeus being for one. They've been involved in the Shadowvar Thay War. They've just had a lot of sort of little events, but Ash Mad-Eye not really around much anymore. Pretty assuredly that's kind of been left in fourth edition or 3.5 or some of those older editions that 1484 DR would be taking place in. So yeah, wow, we got a lot to talk about. Necessarily with all this stuff coming up. It's just none of it is here now. So all I can really do is kind of speculate on the sort of things we might come across in there. And I am excited to find out more about what they've got planned for, I guess, magic running forward, because that's what we're going to be finding out with Arcana Unleashed. Whether or not they're going to get us any new magic mechanics, or, hey, you never know, we might even get a new spell that becomes the table breaking thing, that like silvery barbs or whatever. There's always a chance we could get something new that every player on the planet is gonna want. And that's just kind of how it works, man. I mean, it could be another Xanathar's Guide to Everything. It could be whatever. It could be anything. Recent World of the Wizards of the Coast stuff hasn't necessarily been the best, I would say, but it is whatever. It's okay. Man, there is just kind of a lot coming up for 2026 involving D&D, but once again, as I mentioned, none of them are campaign books, which is really unfortunate, because if I knew there was a campaign book coming up, I could do a whole bunch of stuff on specific lore. Might still do an episode on Fae, because there's a lot there, and the Red Wizards. In fact, I think I know what our monster of the week is going to be today. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I know it's just a lot of me rambling this week. I'm really just dedicated. I just want to find what's going on necessarily. And sometimes I think it's necessary to take these episodes where we kind of go up and look at what might be coming up next and what sort of things I may be talking about. It looks like in a few months we've got Ravenloft, and they'll probably release something with that, probably a tiny little adventure like they did with the last book, and I can go over that. And then there's obviously, you've got later on, you've got the whole Arcana Unleashed thing in September, which seems to be 3 months between the Ravenloft and the Arcana Unleashed. So we've at least got something coming out at a decent pace. But yeah, man, it's been kind of rough, not gonna lie. I'm really looking forward to any campaign books they might release. I might have to bust out the old Ed Greenwood books and start reading through some of those. See how we do with that content here, I could do a whole episode on the Candlekeep book that he helped write. And I'd probably be pretty interesting. I love Candlekeep. It's a good place. But it's not what we're talking about today, not Candlekeep, especially because I've got like a minute left before we have to start getting into our monster here. So yeah, just keep an eye on D&D stuff. It looks like there's a new comic coming along by Dark Horse as well. That seems like it's going to be interesting. We've also got, just a lot of other things coming out. It's the same as always with D&D. There's a ton of crowdfunding projects. There's a ton of other things from the community that make the game good. And then there's Wizards of the Coast kind of puttering along, releasing stuff occasionally. And sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's not. Now, that's just kind of the state we've been in for a bit, for at least a year or two. And that is, I mean, that's all right with me. You know, I play so many other systems. It's whatever. If D&D is kind of on the wayside for a bit, that's all right. But in terms of this podcast, it would be really nice if we could start getting some really interesting new content coming out. You know, Wizards of the Coast. I'm really looking forward to that Dark Sun book if it even happens. That is going to be crazy to read through. I haven't read a ton of Dark Sun content myself, but I've heard about Dark Sun. I've obviously looked a little bit into it, but yeah, man, I'm really interested in the sort of settings they're bringing back to Dungeons and Dragons that aren't the Forgotten Realms, which is great. It's really great that they're doing that. I cannot wait to learn more about, you know, Greyhawk, Dragonlance, all these other settings that I've only had maybe 1 or 2 books in past things, but you know, this one, it seems like there's a bit more, I guess, emphasis on regions that aren't the Sword Coast, which is great. All right. Let's talk about our monster of the week. And I already mentioned, I think I know what they are. Let's talk about the Red Wizards of Thay. The Red Wizards of Thay are essentially gonna be your most, I guess they're your most notorious of necromancers. They are essentially the evil, bad wizard guys of the D&D universe. These guys are serious, completely serious. I mean, they are scary as hell because they wear red robes. They're red wizards. So that is fantastic. They are, of course, a cult, as one could imagine. They usually are involved with undead, slavery, demonology, crazy experimentations. You get the idea. And a lot of it features around this guy named Zastam, which if you have watched the D&D movie, you might recognize the name. Zastam is one of the big bad evil guys of Dungeons and Dragons. Like, there's a lot of really evil characters in Dungeons and Dragons. Don't get me wrong. There's some really famous ones out there too, but Zastam would be one of them. And Zastam, he is the guy in charge of everything here. He's commanded Cyric's Legion, the Legion of Bone, led by vampires and liches. He's this crazy dude that has turned his entire land, sort of Thay, into this land of undead and undeath, and this army that he's acquired. He's I mean, come on, man. He's just a big, scary lich wizard. He's like the lich, the number one lich. I mean, I know there's a lot of other ones out there, but this guy, he's had a lot of influence. So if you're looking for potentially a really interesting kind of conceit in terms of maybe a big, bad, evil wizard character, I would consider making them from Thay, making them a red wizard, making them somewhat associated with Zastam, because there's so much lore connected to Zastam. There's Cyric, Bane, Lichdom. There's so many different people and demons and devils and undead and all these different forces that are at play in Thay that make it so that these red wizards could be potentially at the center of a lot of really bad juju. And that makes it all that more interesting for like a sort of a campaign hook. As of recently, I believe Zastam is still around. The most recent thing we have gotten via Zastam at all was the D&D movie. So we know he's still around. We just don't know what he's up to. And that is, I think, as scary as knowing, you know, that he's there. It's like, he's doing something. We just don't know what. Because, you know, people like Zastam, they don't just sit around and wait and sit on their hands. They're going to do something eventually. And it is going to be probably pretty dangerous, whatever it is. And you never know. It might be around the city of Neverwinter. It might be around Fae. It might be around the whole gosh dang planet of Toril. We just don't know. But whatever he's going to do, chances are it's going to involve a lot of dead people. A lot of dead people. Either newly dead or previously dead and now unliving. We don't know, but keep an eye out. Zaf's Town. All right, that is going to be the end of our episode this week. I know it's been kind of a grab bag, the sort of a ramble fest today, but you know what? I feel like it's kind of like that every week. I've been Tyler Happy. This has been Dungeons and Dystopias. Please come back next week. Hopefully, the new Night City Atlas or the new Night City 2045 book will come out. We can talk about that. If not, we'll probably figure something else out. You know, there's always stuff to talk about when it comes to cyberpunk. All right. As for now, I'm Tyler Happy. This has been Dungeons and Dystopias. Thank you so much for listening. Come back next week. Goodbye.